Hi everyone, this is Gary back with another video on the semiconductor industry. This one is about how to apply special characteristics. As a trainer, this is perhaps the most common topic that I get asked about. Special characteristics can be a confusing concept, and to complicate things even more, there are some manufacturing processes and industries like the semiconductor industry that have certain attributes that can make special characteristics even more confusing to understand and apply. Hopefully this short video will begin to break down some of that confusion. The first thing I want everyone to understand is the purpose or intent of a special characteristic. Why do we need special characteristics? Special characteristics are intended as an awareness tool to communicate the importance of certain features or items. For example, a special characteristic may be used to provide information regarding design functions that require particular attention to process controls. There is no prescribed definition for what is or is not a special characteristic. That will vary depending on the product and the process, and will be defined by each organization. Once we understand the intent of having special characteristics, we can talk about the requirement. The requirement no longer says to identify special characteristics. The requirement says that the organization shall use a multidisciplinary approach to establish its process to identify special characteristics. The requirement is that you have a documented process to identify special characteristics. And that process must consider two sources. First is from the customer, typically through CSRs. Second is from the organization's own internal risk assessment. The organization, through its multidisciplinary process, must do an assessment to see if there are any internal items that need to have their importance communicated. This may include characteristics that lead to a failure of a product function in regard to safety, fit, form, performance, downstream processing, compliance to regulations, or industry standards. Be aware that sometimes special characteristics may also come from regulatory bodies or from other sources, but the primary sources are externally from the customer and internally from your own risk assessment. Within the semiconductor industry, there are some additional attributes that need to be understood and taken into account. And these attributes are not just semiconductor, they may apply to many industries with similar attributes. First, in semiconductor, it's very common to be a tier 2 or a tier 3 supplier with products that are commercial off the shelf or catalog parts. In this case, the customer looks at the supplier's catalog and chooses parts for their application, and the supplier may not even know who the end user is or how the part will be used. In this scenario, there will not be external special characteristics from the customer. Next, a semiconductor manufacturing or fabrication process may have extremely complex interactions among the process steps and allow for almost no variation in the process parameters. With this type of complexity in the process, the organization, through its multidisciplinary approach, may conclude, with regard to the function and the downstream processing, that every step is equally critical, and therefore, those criteria are not applicable to communicating the importance of certain items, because every process step affects the function and downstream processing of the part. Any process steps performed incorrectly or with any variation will result in the part not functioning. The internal risk assessment can still look for importance in safety, regulatory, or industry standards that need to be communicated, but being a commercial off-the-shelf part may make those criteria not applicable as well. Another semiconductor attribute is that it's very common to have a process that's highly or even fully automated. When you have an automated process, there will not be any work instructions that should be communicated as important or annotated with a special characteristic. In many cases, there may not be any special characteristics identified in the fabrication process. It's not uncommon for a semiconductor organization to not identify any special characteristics from the customer or from its internal risk assessment during the fabrication process. Special characteristics may only apply or come into play after the fabrication process is complete, when the parts have moved on and are being tested for functionality or graded for performance, or when the parts are going through the assembly and subsequent processes. Remember, it's the organization's responsibility to establish their process for identification of special characteristics. If your organization is producing off-the-shelf or catalog parts, or if you are running a highly complex process or a highly automated process, then you need to consider the intent of special characteristics and how special characteristics can add value to your process. There may be certain manufacturing or fabrication processes where there are very few or even zero special characteristics. And that's okay. Just make sure that you understand the intent and are meeting the requirements for your special characteristics process. I hope this video has helped clarify some of the misunderstanding around special characteristics. For additional help, make sure to watch some of Jeremy's videos on special characteristics, including where do special characteristics come from? How does the DFMEA influence special characteristics? And the flow down of special characteristics into the operational document sequence. Thanks for watching.